So Patricia Rodriguez is going to be our moderator today, and we're joined by the illustrious Miss Sonia Manzano.
Hola, bienvenidos a todos.
We also have the producers of Alma's Way. We have Olubumi Mia Olufemi.
Hi.
And Ellen Doherty.
Hello.
All right, I'm gonna get out of the way. So enjoy this conversation. We really appreciate you all being here, and thank you on behalf of the Coca-Cola Company. Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias a Jamil. Buenos días a todos. ¿Cómo están? ¡Qué bueno, qué bueno! Pues tengo muchas notas aquí, so perdónenme. I have a lot of notes here. Please forgive me. Hello. Buenos días. Welcome to the Bentonville Film Festival's Real Magic Mornings. And so we're celebrating the 8th annual Bentonville Film Festival. Es el 8º festival del Bentonville Film Festival. Mi nombre es Patricia, my name is Patricia, and I'm from here in Northwest Arkansas. Soy de aquí del noroeste de Arkansas. Y lo que me siento alegre y feliz, what I'm really excited about and proud about, is that I was once a kid who watched PBS. I also watched Sonia B. Maria on Sesame Street. Yo miraba PBS. Yo estaba mirando los programas de Sesame Street con María, con Sonia. Sonia es María. Oh my God. And so, me siento un poquito nerviosa, nervous and excited. And also Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And what Mr. Rogers, yeah, woo! And Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is so important because that's what we're here with. Fred Rogers Productions. Fred Rogers was a wonderful man. And really informed me as a kid and informed me as a parent. And the programming around how important media is to parenting and children and how we see the world. Qué importante es lo que miramos en la televisión, cómo podemos aprender como niños y aprender cómo hablar con nuestros hijos como padres, so we can learn how to talk with our kids like parents as well. So once again, I would like to introduce the creator and executive producer of Alma's Way, Sonia Manzano, the chief creative officer of all of Fred Rogers Productions, Ellen Doherty, and our supervising producer, Olubunmi Mia Olufemi. And we're going to ask some questions and dive in. So Sonia, Ellen, you're both executive producers on the show, and Mia, you're a supervising producer. So for those in the audience who don't know what that is, what is it?
That is an age-old question. What does a producer do? Producers in charge of making everything happen is really the smallest way to say it, the shortest. But we oversee the scripting, the production, working really like all of the details that go into making the show. The planning, but also the creative and the writing, and we just organize the work amongst all of us.
Well, and I'll add that I try to make sure that it's very Boricua, that it's very Nuyorican. It's based on my life as a Nuyorican. Yo soy neoyorquina de padres de Puerto Rico. Entonces me encargué de crear este programa que sea muy, muy Nuyorican. Tiene el número 6 tren y comen mofongo. Y esas son las cosas de que yo me entero.
Qué lindo. How lovely.
How many people are Spanish speakers? Only Spanish speakers. Only Spanish speakers?
Solo español.
Or how many?
¿Quién es bilingüe? Who's bilingual?
Oh, I think we got this. It seems everybody's bilingual here.
Yeah, todos somos, it's a bilingual conversation.
Okay, good.
Spanglish. Sonia, you're a 15-time Emmy Award winner and a Lifetime Award recipient. what was surprising that came natural to you in the producer and creator role? And then what was challenging or what stretched you?
Well, I think I had to work with a lot of people. All of television, you work with a lot of people. This particular experience is more people than I had been used to on Sesame Street. I think that now shows have a lot more people involved, so that was challenging. And also that it's animation. That's new to me. I was coming from a live action world, like a movie, where you could fix things right on the spot. And here I had to anticipate what was going to happen 6 months down the road.
It's a lot of patience. It's mucha paciencia. Mia, how does the experience as a supervising producer on this project, on Alma's Way, differ from your role as a producer on other shows?
So, Alma's Way has been really great because I've been able to work directly with the creator. So, working with Sonia, being able to call her, being on casting, calls with her and auditions. We really make sure that like all of Sonia is infused in the show, which has been really great. And it's also been great working on a show that belongs to Sonia and to Fred Rogers, because you really feel like you can make the show your own. You're not really dealing with a book-based property that may belong to somebody else, which often happens with shows that are based on content that creators previously built. So it's been great working with Sonia and Ellen and Erica Knox and Michelle and Jorge and Dana, who are our writing team, to really make the show our own and build it together.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And that really opens up what that kind of looks like behind the scenes. And these feel like big questions, and they are. So Ellen, I know that there's a story behind this. So what made you want to greenlight Alma's Way?
Oh, well, first of all, Linda Saminsky, who used to be the head of kids content at PBS Kids, emailed and was like, hey, Sonia Manzano has this project. She's looking for a partner. Would you want to work with her? Want me to connect you? And the answer was obviously yes. And then talking to Sonia and reading the materials that she had, I loved the world of it. I used to live in New York City, and I could see Alma. I knew those kids when I lived in New York and did lots of TV production with kids. And then she, describing what she wanted the show to do in that very first conversation, which is almost 6 years ago, she said, I want kids to know they have a mind and they can use it. And that idea of critical thinking, figuring things out for yourself, learning how to problem solve, I just love that. Spoke to me. And I was like, I'm in.
Niños tienen un mente y lo pueden usar. Children have a mind and they can use it. Sonia Manzano.
How many kids here have a mind? Raise your hand if
how
you
many
have
kids
a mind.
have a mind? I'm a kid.
Come
I
on,
have one.
more of you do.
¿Tienen
Everybody
un cerebro?
does.
¿Quién tiene un cerebro?
Everybody. Todos. Sí, tienes una
¿Quién
mente.
tiene un cerebro?
See, he knows.
He's using his this morning. He had his coffee. So Sonia, you had this project in your mind. So can you kind of talk about what it was like from taking the project to an idea to meeting Ellen and kind of those starting seeds of bringing Alma's Way to life?
Well, I had a very clear idea that I wanted kids to know que they had a mind, that todos tenemos una mente, toda la gente tiene mentes, porque I found that kids they have to take a lot of tests and they have to memorize a lot, and they're in crowded classrooms, and a lot of times kids think if they can't pass a test or memorize something that they're not smart. So I want them to know that they are smart and they do have a brain and they could figure things out. That's the main thing. Now, I don't care what kids think about. I just want them to think. But Ellen was concerned about exactly what they thought about and that they have solutions after their thinking process. So I think that was certainly a journey from just think about anything, to let's make sure that they think about a certain problem and have a solution that solves their problem. So that's a little bit of the journey.
Yeah. Who saw Alma thinking? What was she thinking about? You can just yell it. Her mom. She was thinking about her mom? Yeah. Problem solving. So why was problem solving so important in Alma's way?
Well, in every show, you think about what's the story that's being told, and there's the story that the characters tell by what they think and what they do. And with Alma, we wanted kids to see somebody who was solving problems, and solving problems in their head, which is why, and we wanted to show if Alma does it, then maybe kids will learn to do that themselves, and they can learn from how she does it. So in every story, there's a moment when something has gone wrong, Alma doesn't understand what happened, or she wants to do something, and she has to figure out how to do it. So we have a moment where Alma says, I gotta think about this. And then we see her thinking process. And when she's done with that, she knows what to do. And she says, I know what to do. And sometimes she has a real plan. And sometimes what she realizes is she needs more information or she needs help. And I think that that's really important in problem solving because it's not about having the answers and being right. What Alma models is I can figure it out. And that is, to me, the heart of what Sonia was talking about the first time we met and what we try to go for. Is that it's like, on a test, if you don't know the answer, maybe you can figure out the answer, maybe you can think about it, you didn't maybe study that part so well, but you can go through and go like, okay, wait, I know this, and I know this, and I know this, so maybe this is the answer. And that happens in tests, and it happens in life every day. So those kinds of modeling of what she does is what's crucial.
And I will say it works because ever since I started working on this show, because being a producer is also solving problems. Like we literally have to solve problems. How is this show gonna get made? This actor is missing. We're behind on notes. So you are consistently solving problems every day. And there are times where I'm like, I gotta think about this. Let me just, let me figure this out. So this show has really helped me. That and navigating the subway. It's been great.
Subways are, public transportation is a blessing and a problem, for sure. So when you come up with the problems, are there ways, or like, how did you know how to teach that think through? How did you know, how does the magic get made?
I think that every episode is different. Sometimes her answer is, I have to ask somebody. Sometimes she comes up with a concrete answer, or sometimes she says, I need help, which is thinking about a problem, saying, I need somebody else to help me with it.
For me, it's a lot about math. Because for one thing, my mom was a math teacher. And so she thought in that way, and so as her child, I learned to think that way, because she made everything a little game. But also, my previous job was on another PBS show called Cyber Chase, which is math. And one of the things that you can take from math is how you think about problems, and how do I find the answer to this thing? And that sort of working on Cyber Chase was really about how you think about math. And so this helped me think about like the sort of small ways that you build to a solution. And we also really try to think about, in the animation, you see Alma do like she's thinking. And it's important to see the thinking. And it's also important sometimes, like with the mofongo, she's kind of upset, right? Because she's like, oh no, I made a mess, mommy's gonna be mad, I don't want this to be, I wanna help mommy, that was what I was trying to do. And so sometimes we have Alma kind of take a breath, calm herself down as she goes through the think through. And then after she thinks things through, she's a little calmer, she knows what to do. And that's all part of that too. So we do work with child development advisors that help us, but it's also, I think, the teams, our collective professional experience in this, and just sort of watching things through and seeing how we solve things, thinking things through, always.
You know, and I want parents to, when I was a kid and if I was daydreaming and looking off into space, somebody would say to me, "What are you doing? Do something constructive." I was doing something constructive. I was lost in my mind thinking about something. So I'm hoping that parents respect that in their kids when their kids are, quietly contemplating or give them the opportunity to think. And I hope that after the show that there's conversations about, would you have done that to the mofongo? Should you put chocolate in mofongo? How about beans in mofongo? Any kind of conversation about what they see on the show is also is that we're hoping to inspire in the viewer.
And we also really do take care with what mommy and papi and abuelo model too. And I think with the way they speak to Alma, the questions that they have for her, the loving way that they will when she has messed up, as with the mofongo. Mommy is like, "Okay, I'm here with you. I see what you were trying to do. It's not great, but we're gonna work. There's that moment of oh my goodness, what has she done? But they're gonna get through it together and solve it. And it's so, that's something at Fred Rogers Productions that we think about on all of our shows. On Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, with Mom Tiger and Dad Tiger, it's what are they modeling? What are they showing? What can we offer to parents, who are watching this with their kids?
Yeah, I think Alma is really different in that way, is our kids are not in a vacuum. We know that the adults, parents, caregivers, teens, helpful community members, you're all a part of your children's lives, and you are all, allowing them and helping guide them through their world. But they also have agency themselves to think, that power of the mind. And I think that, we really try to make sure we show that in every episode. Alma doesn't only go to her parents. She goes to Safina, one of the Hudas, who's a teenager who works in the vet clinic. She can go to Frankie Forefeet, who's the community director, and talk to him. So we really want to model that community is super important when helping kids navigate this world and think through problems.
And I noticed that in watching Alma's Way, you see the graffiti when they're walking along on the sidewalk, but you also see as they're passing by their community members, their neighbors, they're waving at each other, they're saying hello, they're acknowledging Gloria, the train conductor. And y eso es algo que se hace, that's something that you do in Latin America, in Latinoamérica. Nos saludamos cuando estamos pasando, we're greeting each other. And so that feels very real, se siente muy genial and genuine. And from the food to the dancing to language and voice and how you hear that. And so you mentioned advisors. So what are some of the ways that advisors came in and brought that in and maybe worked with you to make your Sonya's Bronx, baby Alma's Bronx?
Well, it was my Bronx, but updated. It's more like J-Lo's Bronx is the way we, that's how I put it in historical, a timeline, mommy's about J-Lo's age, abuelo's about my age, and that's, so if they would act like this would be this kind of Puerto Rican, the 1950s Puerto Rican or 1980s Puerto Ricans, but we wanted to be authentic in that way, and in the other characters in the neighborhood, and Mia is on top of having wonderful characters in the background. There's a hip hop b-boy also who does a lot of break dancing, which was popular in Puerto Rico, in the Bronx in the 80s, and we want to make sure that that's real. The sets. There's a baba. You know what a baba is? A Puerto Rican straw hat on the wall in the apartment. There's a gigante mask, which is a typical Puerto Rican icon. And I know that even if we don't refer to those things that you see, a person of that culture will look at it and say, oh, that has something to do with me. And it'll just be a subliminal kind of thing in their minds. And so I know that those effects go far. I was raised when there was no Latins on television and nothing Puerto Rican or Latin or Mexican or anything on television. When I would hear one little thing, like one Spanish word on television, I'd go, oh, I'd lean in immediately. It would have something to do with me. So we're having many, many of those icons that people can relate to. And the music, of course, we have to talk about how wonderful I think the music is.
Yeah, a lot of things, like Sonia said, were like, I remember when we were designing Alma's kitchen, and my mother is from Haiti, and so I was like, okay, we have a pilon, which is like the mortar and pestle to grind garlic. You do like a Bialetti style coffee maker. It's not a Mr. Coffee, it's the one that you screw together, you put on the thing, and you make your Cafe Bustelo in the morning. And that's something that I grew up with. So a lot of us, like Sonia said, she's infused a lot of, growing up in Puerto Rican home, the art on the walls, but we also work with other types of advisors. For example, Natasha Crandall is our cultural advisor who helped us create Rafia Huda and her family, because we really wanted to make sure that we had a modern representation of what a Muslim family looks like. Safina wears hijab, Rafia doesn't, because she's younger, she's sporty, she's active, she gets out there and she plays, but yet you still see that representation, and that was really important. Like, Ellen's been really great about making sure we have advisors for everything. We work with medical advisors to come up with Eddie Mambo and his diagnosis, so he has a medical history and diagnosis. He has a therapy diagnosis. We worked with families who have children with cerebral palsy, and we asked them, we said, does this look real? Is this something that you would be able to do? And some of them were like, no. And so we were able to take that feedback and actually integrate it into the process and improve on his animation and provide our animators with videos. So this really is, there's so much intentionality behind this show. Everybody is scrutinizing every detail. Everything is intentional. And I think that that's great.
So so you mentioned like providing videos. So the production team works with Pipeline Studios to create the animations. So what did that process look like from idea, as a concept to like, what does that look like in the day in the life of this production team to make that come to life on screen?
You mean like the Leica? Like first it's a drawing?
Yeah.
Right. We start with the script, which is it's a whole process in itself. But once the script is delivered to the studio, they do all the new designs. If there's new places, new people, we do the voice record with the actors. If there's new actors, new characters, we have to cast that with the lovely Elaine Del Valle, who is here, super talented, has a film in the festival.
Oh.
And then
after that, we get an animated storyboard, which we call a Leica or an animatic, and that's just black and white pictures, and then it turns into the colored version that you saw today, and then we add effects and music. Then there's music, and we work with a great team of composers, Asher Lenz and Steven Scratt, including Fabiola Mendez, who is a cuatro player from Puerto Rico. And so the three of them are responsible for making the beautiful underscore in the episodes that you see. And then goes to sound effects, and then it's packaged, and then it goes to you.
Wow.
So that's how it ends up on your television.
And I want to add how important music is. The first time I heard Latin music on television was on the early Bill Cosby shows.
Wow.
The first, he had credits, and they would come out and they would be doing the mambo. I mean, it had nothing to do with the Bill Cosby show, but he would do these interesting credits. And that was like, whoa, other people listen to Latin music in the mainstream. And, that was remarkable to me. So I think that the scoring of the show is very important, that you hear a aguinaldo, una plena, o algo así, underneath the storyline.
I'm so glad you mentioned music. Let's talk about that intro song. Let's talk. ¿Quién le gustó la canción al principio? Who liked the song that started the show? How did that happen? Who's involved? I don't know where to start.
Well, Sonia emailed a friend.
It starts with an email. It starts with a friend. Who's that friend?
The friend was Lin-Manuel Miranda. I knew him from Sesame Street. He had played a bird on Sesame Street. This is before Hamilton. I knew him when he was a bird. And so I thought he would be perfect, of course, to write the theme because, he could say with 4 words what it takes the rest of us 50 words. And he could really set it up. And I said I wanted hip hop. I wanted salsa in the music. I wanted Bronx in the music. And he did it. And how long is that tune? 2 minutes?
45 seconds?
45 seconds.
50 seconds.
And I think he really set up the show with all of those different, and having her go like this, which I think you were responsible for.
Yeah, I sent some videos to Pipeline of Rhapsody, who is an amazing hip hop artist, but also is just really great with how she poses when she's rapping, and it's a body performance. So
I love when she went like this, and
Yeah.
so the animators put that in, and Lynn wrote the music and the lyrics with Bill Sherman. Now, he was my friend, but I did also have to depend on his father when he didn't return my phone calls. Because I knew his
Tiene que llamar a papi. You have to call papi y mami. Cuando el niño no se
I
está
said,
portando
so I had
bien.
to call his father and say, hook me up. You gotta hook me up with your son. So, and the other thing, I just have to say, thank Mia for, we do a lot of bomba dancing on the show.
La bomba de
La
Puerto
bomba y la
Rico.
plena.
So es un baile folclórico. It's a traditional
It's a traditional
folk
folk dance, and I wanted to get that skirt going back. And you didn't see it. Well, it is in the opening, but I think that you were responsible for making sure they flipped that skirt back.
Oh yeah, that's so we really and the aguinaldo too. Like there's been a learning curve with the show, but Pipeline has been so wonderful between Sonia and Fabiola and Ellen and all of our advisors. We've really been able to make sure that those authentic touches are right. Like we do several versions of some of our songs, and so it's like if she needs to shuffle back, I'm going to be in my basement doing a reference video of like, here's what she needs to do, and that's how we get the show made.
In the song, we hear Alma rap, and then we hear my favorite part in the Mofongo episode is when she goes, "I know," and so little things like that. Why was that so important in both like casting and in writing to kind of include, a little girl that could learn to rap?
She came to us rapping.
Oh.
That was part of her audition. She is Summer Rose Castillo, super talented, and she had a rap about her school, and that was part of her audition. And it was just sort of like, okay, this is something we need to look at, this is something special.
If it's going to be in the Bronx, you have to have rapping in it because in order to be authentic to that. And she does say, ay, 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 or whatever she says in Spanish, I know. And we have some Mexican-American characters coming in, and we're having fun with Alma saying, que chévere, and the Mexican-American kid saying, que padre. Now, I didn't hear que padre before, so that's like, I'm learning that, and we used to do that on Sesame Street too. Emilio Delgado, who's Chicano, and I'm New Yorican, we used to kind of speak different kinds of Spanish, and I'm hoping to do a little bit of that on the show too.
And what's really, Elaine, who's in the audience, has been an amazing casting director. We have, Alma's Bronx is diverse. just like the actual Bronx. And so there are Latinos, there are West Africans, there are Caribbeans from Latin and non-Latin countries. And she's been really great about making sure that we find the best actors possible. And our cast is from everywhere. You know, they're Dominican, they are Puerto Rican, they are Cuban. And I mean, really, they bring so much to each of their roles. Holly Gregory, who is our voice director, will often say, you know, we're not super script sacred, except for when it comes to the curriculum. Then we have to make sure Alma's saying those words, but they bring themselves to those roles. And so, like Ellen said, Summer rapped. Like Elaine, Elaine really searched for her, and she rapped, and she was so amazing. And that has in turn, I think, prompted Jorge and Dana, our writing team, to put more raps in the episodes. Because Summer loves to rap, and anytime she gets in the booth, she's like, and she's killing it, and we're like, she loves doing this. And it's really built the character up.
And you asked about the sort of getting all these details right, or thinking about these details, just like Sonia said about and Mia as well, about the items in the kitchen, the things in the background that theoretically don't matter, but they do because they create the world. It's the same thing with the saying, I know, like that moment of like, oh, if you are of that place, of that culture, you know that's it. That's what it is. And when it's not right, that also you know. And it's a disconnect. And I think that the thing as people who make media, we are very aware of the many, many choices that we make every single day that will either connect or disconnect, exclude or include. And we always want to include and connect. So we're looking at those background things that are happening. We're looking at all the layers, all the textures that create this beautiful world, because that is what will most connect to the audience and will make somebody feel like, I belong. That's my place. That's me.
Sonia, you kind of teased, or not teased, but you mentioned that there will be some Mexican-American characters coming in. Are there any other surprises or nuggets that we can expect from Alma's Way?
Yeah, there's some good stuff coming. We've got Frankie's 4 Feet. Well, first of all, new shows coming July 11th. We are airing now.
El 11 de julio.
Yeah, week of July 11th. So tune in to your local PBS Kids station. But we're also streaming on our website, Alma's Way, pbs.org/Alma's Way. We're on YouTube. We're on Amazon. Catch us everywhere. But we've got that great episode with Frankie's 4 Feet, which Sonia kind of alluded to, where we see Frankie's B-boy days and get a chance to look at his sneaker collection. We know sneaker culture is really huge in the Bronx. We've got
I'm going to excuse us for 1 second. I don't know if we can say this yet. Hang on.
I think we can.
Exclusive.
Exclusive. You've
Noticias
heard it here.
exclusivas.
There are 2 shows where Alma goes to Puerto Rico.
Un viaje, a trip.
And these shows, I'm so proud of them. And, they're not won't be aired for quite a while.
Next summer.
Next summer, because that's how long it takes. But they're just beautiful shows. There's 2 shows, wonderful story, heartfelt, a lot of culture. Papi's going to go to Luisa, which is a Afro-Puerto Rican area of Puerto Rico, and we're going to meet his family, and it's just going to be wonderful. It's a nice, different look for a minute.
Qué lindo, qué bonito. Before we're gonna who's gonna have questions? And I have one last question, but who here has questions? Okay, we have a couple of hands, so don't be shy. Y queremos oír de los niños. Si los niños tienen una pregunta, if the littles have a question, we want to hear those too. What has been your favorite part of working on Alma's Way?
Working with all these wonderful people. Truly, truly. Everyone who is involved in the show gives everything to it and really gives the heart and wants to make the best possible viewing experience. And also, I should say, games. We all have lots of great games and activities on the website, which are awesome. Bop or Pop, Party at Alma's. There's a lot of great fun and learning content there too. But really, it's the people are amazing.
I have to echo that. Like, I think I'm a child of immigrants. My mother's Haitian, my father's Nigerian. I was raised here. I grew up in a 3-culture household where I didn't really feel like a part of any place. And so being able to work on this show where I can, put a Haitian author or ask, get permission to put a Haitian author in a story and make Andre, half Nigerian and put a talking drum on the screen has been incredible. You really, I think part of this whole film festival is like if you can see it, you can be it. And that has been my experience working on this show. So I've been really grateful to Ellen and Sonia for bringing me in as part of the team, and also the wonderful, diverse group of people we have making this show, because we really do put so much of ourselves into it. And we hope that that's speaking to you and to your kids as well. Thank you.
Well, I like the writing aspects. I like these two all right.
Es una escritora. She's a writer.
But I like the writing aspects. I just have fun, putting as much into a script as possible, making it as rich as possible, putting in many details.
That's lovely. A lot of, because you can start writing and telling stories. You can start telling stories as soon as you can start to just make noises. We all have a mind, and we can use it.
Right.
So first, I'm going to turn it to the audience. I want everybody to stand up. Nos podemos parar? Can we stand up? And then just go, no go mofongo.
No
mofongo. Go mofongo. Let those wiggles out. Y listos para sentarnos, we can sit down. Okay, who has a question? ¿Quién tiene una pregunta? Or Bentonville Film Festival, I think, because it's time to turn it over to Q&A. So do I hand the mic out? Who has a question?
Any kids have questions?
Oh,
all right, here.
Do you have a question? Okay.
Does Alma live somewhere else?
Does Alma live somewhere else? She lives in the Bronx with her family, and most of the stories take place there, and that's a real place in New York City, and it's a real place where I grew up, and it's still there, and that's where the show is.
Thank you so much. We have a question.
Hi, everyone. I'm the casting director for Alma's Way. And that wonderful question that this young lady asked, I want you all to know it's very important, especialmente para los niños que saben, that Alma, the girl who plays Alma, Summer Rose Castillo, is a girl, like many of the girls here in the audience, that never acted before, ever. And we found her, we discovered her. So I want to encourage all of you to know that that's a little girl that was 8 years old that we found in the Bronx. And she's from the Bronx. And just like you guys have the opportunity to pursue a career in the arts as well. Don't let anybody tell you that you cannot. Because we actually need people like you very much. So often in Alma's Way, they create amazing characters. And there aren't enough actors of the people, of the characters that they're creating to represent authentically. And I very much oftentimes have to go out into the real people world to try to find them. So I just want to encourage you all that if you have any interest in the arts whatsoever, even if it's just for fun, it helps you to think and to be free and to tell your stories, and that you can all be whatever you want to be. And this career path is not limited to anybody.
Well said. Thank
Amen.
you.
That is powerful. Sí se puede y todos tenemos el poder. We can do it and we all have the power. Any other questions? ¿Más preguntas? Yes, ma'am.
It's not a question, it's just a comment. It's been over 25 years since I watched children's television, and I thought this was just wonderful. I used to work with special needs students, both physically impaired and emotionally impaired. And I just think it's wonderful to have a program, and I realize there's other programs out there, but to have a program to try to teach the child not what to think, but how to think. There's a process. You can step back. You don't have to be impulsive. And I know when you're little, you are impulsive. You don't know different. But it's a process of learning, and I think it's wonderful. And also, as an adult watching this today, I just loved it. And you know, I'm not Puerto Rican. I grew up in Pennsylvania. And I just loved watching it. My daughter lived in Brooklyn, and I know about the subway and all that. It was just wonderful seeing all of this. I just learned so much as an adult.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're lifelong learners. Vamos a aprender toda la vida.
Hi. Can you talk about a challenge that you've had on your path towards where you're at now, to like basically where you're at in your career now, and kind of how you've overcome that challenge?
Sorry, you were upstaged by somebody who clearly didn't like your question. So
Sorry. I can repeat it. Can you talk about a challenge that you've had on your path towards your career and where you're at now, any of you, and how you've overcome that challenge?
you're talking. Any of us.
And all three of you, yes, please.
Well, I guess that I guess there weren't a lot of Latino parts when I started out, and but I was lucky that I got a job on Sesame Street. But even on Sesame Street, after a couple of years, I felt that I wanted to do more than an actor, and that's when I started looking at writing. So I think that you have to like flip it a little bit. You have to be flexible when you meet a challenge. And I felt like, well, I've already done everything I can as an actor on this show, but I still want to. I like it, but I want another challenge. I look behind the camera, and I think a lot of times in show business, you do have to flip your journey. And so that's one way to deal with challenges.
I totally agree with that. I think that people look at, usually when you tell folks what you do as a producer, they say, oh, that's great, you make cartoons all day. I'm like, this is a hard job. Like, we have lots of problems. And like Sonia said, you have to be really flexible and you have to be willing to fail. You will fail and you will make mistakes. And that's fine, because that's how you learn. As long as you can be flexible and think about, okay, this failed. How can I think about this in a different way? What would I do next time? That is what is going to ensure your success. So really don't be afraid of failure and always be thinking, how can I do this better the next time?
When I graduated from college, I knew that I wanted to work in kids' TV, but I didn't know how to get a job in that. I grew up in Michigan. I went to school in Boston. Kids TV meant New York or LA. I didn't really know people in New York or LA, so it took me a year. I worked in retail, worked at a department store, worked at a hardware store, and kind of just kept trying different stuff and going through the want ads in the newspaper, as you did. And I went to New York to, quote, look for a job, but really it was to see friends and hang out. But like, they didn't work in TV, so it was just sort of like, I'll just go and I'll go to New York. I've never been to New York. And I went on some interviews that turned out to be job agencies and I didn't type fast enough for TV. So they were like, you can't do that. And I went back through the newspaper and I found this teeny little ad that was really like a half an inch for a kids TV company. And I called the phone number, and it was a company that I had interned for, a show called Reading Rainbow. And it was like, I didn't think to call them. I knew them, I did know them, but it didn't occur to me that I should call them and say, do you have any jobs? So I found it in the newspaper, and then I went and I interviewed and got the job, and that was how I started. But it was that perseverance and problem solving of like, well, I'm just gonna keep. I think the thing is that when problems are really big, you have to start. This is literally something from Cyber Chase. Find a simpler case. Find a small part of that, and just figure, I'm going to just keep doing this, and then I'm going to try this, and then I'm going to try this, and then suddenly you're halfway there. Suddenly it's like, oh wait, that problem, I know how to solve that problem. That big problem, I have no idea. But the little problem, that I can do. And I think that is kind of how I approached different challenges, like when I got laid off from that big job 7 years later, and I was like, I knew one company in New York City, and now I need to find another job, a whole bunch of jobs. And that was just, I just kept just a little bit, do this, do this, do this. So.
Perseverance.
Also, Don Quixote on PBS Kids from Fred Rogers Productions is all about perseverance.
Whenever I have to solve something, unfortunately, I always say, oh, I don't know anybody. And then I think, wait a minute, you do know somebody. Give yourself a minute. Think about who you know. You must have met somebody in all these years who can lead you to the next step. So there's that.
That's so true. And I got an internship on Reading Rainbow in Boston because somebody called looking for interns. And my boss answered the phone. I had a job on campus in an office, like typing and, whatever they needed to have done. And it was a wrong number. They called the wrong department. And my boss was like, well, you called the wrong number, but I have an intern for you. So because I did a good job at that job, which was showing up on, senior year in college, showed up on time, typed the things, was polite, did the, followed directions. Because I did that stuff right, the person who was my boss was like, she did a good job. I'm going to tell her, I'm going to recommend her. I had a friend when I got that job at Reading Rainbow who I was like, I'm so lucky. And he was like, did you do a good job at that job? Yes. Did they recommend you because of it? Yes. You made this happen. So I think that's something that's important, is to understand that you can make luck, you can make connections, you do know stuff, and to know that goes back to you have a mind and you can use it. You have power in yourself, as you said, and it can take a while, but you can little by little.
Absolutely. And to take it back to Alma's way, Sonia said, wait a minute, you do know people. So just thinking it through and the relationship building and nurturing those relationships. Here's another question.
So you've all talked about the importance of relationships and asking for help in your careers. How are you displaying that in Alma's way? What are some examples in Alma's way that you've used her relationships and her willingness to acknowledge her need for help and ability to ask for help?
So Alma has, like I said, a really wide community net of people in her life that she can go to and talk to for help. So I think in the second episode you guys watched was Alma versus Eddie. She goes to her grandfather and she's like, abuelo, Eddie seems really upset at me. And he's like, he just asked her a question that kind of piques, something in her mind to be like, let me think about this. And she does that with everybody. She is very much a part of the fabric of her community and is an active member in her community. When her friend Andre, she realizes he's afraid of scary stories, she goes to the community center director Frankie, and she's like, can we use the rooftop to have an outdoor movie here and just do something different so that he can still be with us and watch this movie with us? And he's not left out. And Frankie's like, yeah. So it's there's always people who are willing to help. And Alma's always willing to kind of talk to folks to make that happen.
That makes me think about Mr. Rogers saying, look for the helpers. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was intentional.
You pitched it and I caught it. Got it.
Any kids have questions? Come on. Muchachos, no tienen preguntas.
Over here. A tiny hand. Okay. I'm gonna bring it over here. We can do this. Sí se puede.
I like the movie.
Oh, that's what we like to hear. Gracias.
Thank you.
Best comment of the night. All right. We have one last question, and then we'll be wrapping it up.
I was going to see if I can make a comment and a question. The first comment I wanted to say is I liked the reflection when you're talking about inclusivity, seeing something like an object that's in the cartoon or just using words. I think that reflection is really important because when people watch it, then they can go back and they can reflect and say, okay, well, this pertains to me or this doesn't pertain to me. And then the comment I was going to ask is, will there be any crossover characters from Haiti, possibly?
From Haiti? Yes.
Oh yeah, so there's a character in Junior Story named Miriam Etienne, and she's a Haitian author. So we see her there, and there is a character coming up who's actually named after my mom. So you will be seeing her soon in future episodes.
So I hear work hard, be diligent, be kind, be a helper, and then you can put your mom in a show.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate Sonia, Mia, Ellen for taking the time to be here with us and sharing Alma's Way and making something really special that all ages will be watching. I know that I am going to continue watching Alma's Way. I'm a grown-up. I love it. I'm a child at heart, a child forever, and there is something to learn there, and we can all grow. Thank you so much, everybody. Muchas gracias por estar aquí.
Thank you.